Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. For I believe this is the second time today. If you haven't seen my episode on Belby yet, go and check that out. A really unique, awesome Golgari commander. And yeah, with a set called Commander Legends, they sure are not, it's living up to the name with the number of legendary creatures that are being spoiled in this set. I believe they originally said it was going to be 70 or 72 or something legendaries in this set. So yeah, definitely not running out of things to talk about when it comes to new legendary creatures coming out. And today's episode, or this episode I should say, is going to be on Aesi, Tyrant of the Epicycle Strait. So Aesi is a 5/5 serpent that costs 4 green-blue. It says you may play an additional land during each of your turns, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. Now that part in particular, that might sound pretty familiar, and you might be thinking, hey, there's actually another commander. Don't we already have this commander somewhere? And you'd be right, because that's Tatyova Benthic Druid, essentially. Tatyova Benthic Druid, a 3/3 Merfolk Druid, different, costing 3 green-blue, so 1 less. Says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and draw a card. So, essentially the same commander, just slightly different. 1 mana more for Aesi, and also you don't gain the life. But in exchange for that 1 extra mana and not gaining the life, you may play an additional land during each of your turns. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of debate on which is the better commander, Aesi or Tatyova. I think it really depends probably on your play group. It depends on your play style, potentially. I mean, that life gain, although I do harp on kind of life gain being a little weak in commander, it is nice to pad your life total. And being 1 mana less, I think that's actually the more important part for more competitive metas. Being 1 mana less, being 5 mana instead of 6 is a big difference. So, getting kind of 1 extra turn potentially of advantage from playing lands and whatnot. Obviously, the longer the game goes, potentially kind of the better Aesi gets for you, because again, you're getting 1 extra land per turn with that, in exchange for not getting that life gain. So I think there is definitely kind of, I think there's going to be people in both sides, saying either Aesi is better or Tatyova is better. Regardless, with either of them being your commander, you're going to want the other one in the deck, and it's going to be the Golden Pig of your 99, which if you're not familiar with my deck text, it's going to be that's the number 1 card out of the 99, because it's just basically a second copy of your commander, plus or minus kind of, again, depending on, what you think of the power level between one or the other. Regardless, and I'll keep it at this, I realize that some people are kind of a little tired of these kinds of Simic commanders, and reasonably so, because, yeah, there seems to be a pattern with, okay, card advantage and land kind of focus. Yeah, and this one kind of seems, more the same with like a Tatyova. So, like a Tatyova, though, the way that I would build this deck is to focus on ramp. Go figure. So, cards like Rampant Growth, you search your library for basic land, comes into play tapped. Yeah, so you basically now, all of your ramp cards now draw you a card, or cards, depending on how many lands come into play. Again, you're already ramping more with your commander because, when each turn happens, you get to play an extra land and you get to draw a card. So basically you're putting 2 lands down, drawing 2 cards. So you want to make sure that your hand is full of lands, or not full of lands, but full of cards and enough lands that you can get advantage off of every single one of those landfall triggers. Summer Bloom, those kind of cards let you play extra lands in a turn, even more lands in a turn. Summer Bloom lets you play 3 extra. So again, for 2 mana, you ramp by 3. Those lands are coming into play untapped. I mean, unless they're a non-basic that comes into play tapped. Those lands come into play untapped, though, and you're drawing 3 cards. So, yeah, that's a lot of value for just 2 mana, as long as you have the lands in your hand, which, again, with this deck, you're going to have no problem drawing enough cards, really, to have your hand full of lands. It rhymes. And then cards, again, like Gaia's Touch or Rites of Flourishing, that let you play extra lands in a turn. Basically, kind of in addition to your commander, basically, if you had both of these in play plus your commander, you're able to play 4 lands each turn without kind of any additional effects, not even Rampant Growth or whatnot. So yeah, playing 4 lands in a turn, ramping you by 3 more than you'd normally be able to, and then also being able to draw 4 more cards in a turn is pretty absurd. So this commander can definitely get out of hand pretty quickly. Abundance is a card that can really help this kind of a deck out as well, especially when you have those kind of additional land, effects in play. Abundance says if you would draw a card, you may instead choose land or non-land and reveal cards on the top of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind. Put that card in your hand and the rest and the bottom of your library in any order. Essentially, with those kind of, you can play additional lands in a turn. Again, let's say that you've got another one of those effects in play plus your commander, so you can play 3 lands in a turn total. You basically, for those first 2, are going to be like, okay, yeah, I will choose land off the draw. I will choose land off the draw. So you're always hitting kind of the exact number of lands that you need. And then when you don't need any more lands, you can just choose non-land to make sure that you're getting a card. This basically kind of just ensures that you basically get the most out of all those additional land plays. So you always have the appropriate amount of kind of lands that you need to play. And then you're not kind of getting land flooded either. And you're basically able to play those spells that you want to play as well. And then I do want to mention that kind of the last way that I'm going to mention when it comes to ramp is going to be there's creatures that actually kind of help by tapping, like a Sky Shroud Ranger. It taps, and you can put a land from your hand into play. So basically, yeah, you can just say, okay, I've got a land in my hand. I will tap, put a land from my hand into play. It's kind of like your commanders, may play additional land. The tapping can actually be very beneficial because of things like a Retreat to Coral Helm, which has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. You may tap or untap target creature. That's the important one. You basically, with Sky Shroud Ranger, Retreat to Coral Helm, and any land that bounces back to your hand, like a Simic Growth Chamber, you can get an infinite combo with an infinite number of landfall triggers. Basically, you tap your Sky Shroud Ranger, you put your Simic Growth Chamber in play, it bounces back to your hand, because you can choose to bounce itself back, and then Retreat to Coral Helm is going to trigger, and you can basically say, okay, yeah, I'll untap my Sky Shroud Ranger and do that over and over again. Obviously, you're just kind of spinning your wheels, but with your commander in play, you can draw essentially just your entire deck. And then if you've got any other landfall triggers, then you can win with that as well. Moloku is another way to do this with kind of any basic, essentially. Pay 1, return a land you control to its owner's hand, put a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So, kind of similar thing. You do need the Retreat to Coral Helm, but yeah, again, with any land, this can basically work with that and a Sky Shroud Ranger, or any of those creatures that can kind of tap to get a land into play. But yeah, and again, this one kind of actually also just makes you an infinite army of 1/1 blue illusions with flying, so you can definitely win that way from there. Other ways to make tokens come with like Zendikar's Royal or Rampaging Balos. Those are landfall triggers. The first one's going to make you 2/2 elementals whenever a land comes into play. The second one's going to make you 4/4 beasts. So yeah, definitely can make you bigger and better creatures with the Rampaging Balos, but it is on a creature, so slightly more of a risk. And then you can also finish players off outside of tokens with something like a Psychosis Crawler. Basically says whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. So yeah, you're going to be drawing an absurd number of cards in this deck. So outside of landfall triggers, you can easily win by just saying, yeah, okay, this turn I'm going to draw 20 cards, and I'm going to drain you all for 20, and then that's game over for many players. You can also kind of go in a more Staxy approach, I guess, if you want to take it in that way, for maybe a more competitive meta, if your playgroup is fine with that. With more cards like a Mana Breach or a Storm Cauldron, if you want to kind of say, okay, now I'm going to kind of benefit based off of lands coming back to my hand, although it's probably going to hurt you because most decks really don't want that. Mana Breach says whenever a player plays a spell, that player returns a land they control back to their hand. And Storm Cauldron takes this a step further by saying each player may play an initial land during each of their turns, but whenever a land is tapped for mana, return it to its owner's hand. So basically, you get that extra landfall trigger, and then whenever anyone taps their lands, they're going to bounce them back to your hand. You're going to have ways to play extra lands in a turn, or, get, those lands into play with, again, a Sky Shroud Ranger or whatnot, but your opponents probably won't have the same kind of effect, so this is really going to help you out and really hurts them. So, obviously, if you kind of want to see a full deck breakdown, I recommend going to check out my Tatyova video, which I think was actually one of my first deck techs, so I apologize for the sound quality and the overall kind of presentation of the video. I've learned a few tricks since then. But yeah, this is kind of another kind of typical Simic commander that cares about, lands coming into play. It cares about drawing cards. So kind of any kind of synergies that go around those can usually kind of be very effective. Again, I think there's going to be heavy debate between, which is the better commander, Tatyova or Aesi. I don't think you can really go wrong with one or the other. Again, it's going to depend on your preference. It's going to depend on your meta. It's going to depend on if you prefer that extra land each turn, or if you prefer your commander to cost 1 less and to gain you life. And again, that life gain isn't unsubstantial. You can gain with Tatyova easily, 20 life in a game, and that can really help you out. So yeah, that's Aesi though. It's a very Simic commander. Let's just leave it at that. So, and now it's my turn to hear from you, though. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this commander are. And actually, let me know if you think Aesi is better as a Simic commander, or is it Tatyova? Or, are they just both Simic commanders, I guess? So, yeah, let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks again, and have a good one.